Alhamdulillah wahda wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'da wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa baraka wa sallim.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this special edition on program on moonsighting. We are indeed grateful to Islam Channel for giving us this opportunity to have a good discussion, a debate on this important issue. Alhamdulillah, it was with Allah's grace that the entire Muslim community in the UK commenced the month of Ramadan on the same day, that was Thursday. There were concerns that perhaps the moon may have been sighted in other parts of the world, but it seems that the information that was given to us through the observatory data really did actually provide us the guidance, and moon was sighted in part of the world, which enabled us to follow the decision making. However, today, alhamdulillah, is again a very important opportunity for us to discuss the issue of moon sighting. We have again the prominent scholars with us who were with us last time. They will be giving us their expert opinion in terms of the likelihood of the day of Eid, i.e. the last day of Ramadan. We will also be hearing from scholars in terms of the various possibilities of how the information of moon sighting coming from different places and what sort of reliance we have to place. But in any case, it is something that we have to respect the views of our panelists from the scholars. Alhamdulillah, they are all following the decision based on Sharia. But it is our view and it is our intention, inshallah, that the scholars will be united in enabling us to have one day of Eid throughout the United Kingdom. So I'll go straight to our panelist in the first part of the program, and then we will involve our audience in the discussion as well. They will have the opportunity to question our panelist in terms of particular questions they have, and then we'll be able to take it from there onwards. Sheikh Suleiman, what are the chances of us in the UK celebrating this very happy occasion of Eid on one day?
Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihi kareem, amma ba'd. It has been a great honor and privilege to be here again amongst yourself and to share with you a very important message about how we can unite our hearts, how we can try and bring into our lives, understanding that Allah Ta'ala has created us for a purpose, and our real purpose is that we are the servants of Allah, we are the Ibadur Rahman, and when we want to worship Almighty Allah Ta'ala, then we want to worship Him according to how Allah Ta'ala has made and ordained for the servants of Allah to worship Him. And that is, we say, just like how we have brought our salawat into our lives, the 5 daily salawat, in the very same way, the determining of the beginning of the months, the ending of the months, all this is determined according to the sighting of the hilal, the ru'yatul hilal, the commencement of the month and the ending of the month. So is there a likelihood of us celebrating our Eid on one day? Inshallah, if you follow the criteria for the visibility and not violating the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then the possibility of us celebrating our Eid on one day for all of the people in the UK and in most parts of the world, inshallah, it definitely will be on one day. So therefore, I reiterate the point that according to the criteria of the visibility, that inshallah, the moon in the UK on this Thursday, there is no possibility of it being on the horizon. It would not even be sighted, no possibility. So therefore, we will fulfill the sunnah, and the sunnah is when the end of every month comes, then the 29th, we go out, we do an observation of the hilal with the naked eye, sumu li ru'yatihi wa aftiru li ru'yatihi. And if we are unable to sight it, and inshallah, hopefully, we will wait for reports on countries in our east, and if there is still no sighting, then definitely we will have our Eid on one day. And it seems, inshallah, this year, there is impossibility of any sighting of hilal on the Friday. And that maybe our expert will highlight that issue, inshallah.
This takes us to Dr. Usama Hassan, who is an expert in the whole study of astronomy. Alhamdulillah, he has been working very closely with the Royal Observatory. Dr. Usama, we heard from Sheikh Suleiman that there is no moon on the horizon in the UK. Can you give us a little bit more details when we say the moon is not on the horizon? What does it really mean?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What people should know is, at the beginning of a new month, the moon is close to the sun in the sky. As the moon goes around the earth once a month, the new moon is when the moon passes the sun, and when it's a crescent moon, it is just past the sun. That's why we see it as a very thin crescent. And what that means is, because the moon is close to the sun in the sky, the moon sets close to sunset at the beginning of the month. And for the moon to be visible, it has to set sometime after the sun.
After
the sun sets, the sun's glare, the light stays there for a good 20 minutes or so.
Right.
And the moon can be invisible if it's lost in that glare.
Right.
So for the moon to be visible, even a really thin hilal, there needs to be, sometime at least 20 minutes to half an hour usually.
Right.
Between sunset and moonset.
Right.
So when we say moon's on the horizon, what we mean is that the moon must be setting after the sunset.
Right.
And an appreciable time. Sometimes the moon is setting before sunset, around the time of new moon. And it's clearly impossible to see the moon on that. If you remember, before Ramadan, we predicted, 2 or 3 days before, we predicted that the moon would be seen easily from South Africa and also from East Africa. And that's exactly what happened. We had confirmed sightings from South Africa and East Africa. Thursday night, there's no chance anywhere in the world of seeing the moon with the naked eye. Thursday night, no chance.
Right. We heard from Sheikh Suleiman Ghani that there is a likelihood, in fact, that there should be all the possibilities for us in the UK to celebrate the day of Eid on one day, on the grounds that there is no moon on the horizon on Thursday evening. And when questioned that what about in other parts of the world, like Saudi Arabia, we are told that even in Saudi Arabia, the moon will not be on the horizon. And Sheikh Dr. Osama Hassan explained to us what it means when we say not on the horizon. It basically means that the moon disappears at the time of sunset. The moon is not on the horizon. So the sunset takes place, and after that there is no moon. If the moon is on the horizon, then it means that after sunset, the moon stays there for some period of time. And that's the time when we observe and people around the world do sight the moon. But before we move on to Sheikh Yusuf, the Mufti from Croydon Mosque, Sheikh Suleiman, if I may ask you one question. You said that there is no moon will not be in the horizon in Saudi Arabia, because we do get news from Saudi Arabia and many mosques, particularly Regent's Park Mosque, they do get the directions of according to the moon is sighted in Saudi Arabia. If the moon is sighted in Saudi Arabia, as much as according to the observatory data, the moon is not there, what should be the position of the community?
I think this is very clear. Imam Subki, a great Shafi'i scholar, he mentions a very beautiful, and there is a principle which we use because we are showing that there is totally, it is complementary, that is the ilm al-fiqh and falak, astronomy and fiqh in itself. So his statement is, لا يقبل الحساب القطعي إلا في رد الشهادة ظنية لا لتثبيت الهلال, which means simply that we do not accept we do not accept anything that is probable. لا يقبل الحساب القطعي. So with regards to this calculation, just to clear that point very quickly, there are two types of hisab. One is qat'iyyun and one is dhanniyyun. Qat'iyyun means it is conclusive, or we say persuasive, meaning the moon set, that is the sunset, at any place at any given time, you are able to know exactly whether the moon set before sunset or sunset before the moon set. So for example, in Saudi Arabia, as we know, that is with ilm al-yaqeen, we know for sure certainty that the moon has set before sunset. It means it is not in the horizon. So it may happen that there may be somebody who may claim that they have sighted the hilal. We are not questioning his iman. We are not questioning and doubting anything about that, but probably he had seen something else. So therefore this principle comes in mind, that we do not use this hisab to establish the beginning of the month, but we only use to negate. It is only used for nafi, to negate anything that is improbable.
Right.
And what is improbable is probably he may have cited something else. So therefore we cannot accept the citing of a shahada that is taking place when we know for sure with certainty that the moon is not on the horizon.
Fine. So but then there's also this formula of the 1984 of the ulamas that got together at the Regent's Park Mosque, which had clearly stated that provided the moon is on the horizon in the UK, then we would be able to take the information from any part of the world of the sighting. But in this issue, as far as that particular school of thought and the group that follows the 1984 formula, it is quite evident that since there is no moon on the horizon in the UK, these particular groups will not be taking news of sighting from any part of the world. For simple reason is that there is no moon in the UK.
Yes.
However, back to Dr. Osama Hassan, we were looking at the data.
I do have the data now. So Thursday evening, in London, the moon sets 20 minutes before the sunset. And in Mecca, it sets 1 minute before sunset. So moon and sun set at about the same time, but actually the moon is 1 minute earlier. So that it shows clearly that that's why the moon is not visible this Thursday evening, either in Europe or in Mecca, for example. And this map, which I hope the cameraman can zoom in on, shows the world on Thursday evening, and the only place where you can see the moon will be the small green corner here, next to my finger there, the little green patch, which is very close to the solar dateline, which basically means the whole world, nowhere can we see the moon with the naked eye in the whole world. A small corner of the world, maybe you see it with powerful telescopes. But the next day, Friday evening, you see the green area. A large part of the world, about half of the world, will be able to see the moon on Friday evening. And that's why I believe we should have a unified Eid day on Saturday. And this is just like the beginning of the month. Based on the same calculations, we predicted 2 or 3 days in advance that we would see the moon in South Africa and in East Africa.
Sure.
And that's exactly what happened.
Right, let's move on to our Mufti Sahib, Mufti Yusuf from Croydon Mosque. Mufti Sahib, ये जो chances क्या है ये जो मैंने शेख सुलेमान को बताया कि in terms of us celebrating all one day.
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह वहदा वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला मन ला नबिय्य बअदा व अला आलिहि वसहबी व बारक वसल्लम। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह ये मामला बिल्कुल फल्किया के इत्तिबा से बिल्कुल वजाहत है, साहिल हो गया कि ये बिल्कुल इम्कानी रुयत है ही नहीं।
Yes.
बाकी रहा कि हमें देखना ये कि हम इस मुल्क में रह रहे हैं, इस मुल्क में हर मुल्क रुयत हिलाल का मामला है। हर मुल्क में कोई भी रहते हैं, वहाँ के उलमा मुसलमानों को अपने मुल्क पर उनका जिम्मेदारी बनता है। किसी मुल्क का कोई अमल कर रहा है तो हम उसको सहूलत पसंदी से हम फॉलो नहीं कर सकते। शरीयत ने आसान कर दिया, पूरी दुनिया ये काम करें। सलफ सालेहीन के ज़माने से ये तरीका होते चले आ रहे हैं। हम यहाँ पर हम क्यों सऊदी को फॉलो कर रहा है? हम सहूलत की वजह से कर लें। इसलिए सहूलत पसंदी है हमारे लिए ना, वमन युतिइल्लाह व रसूला फ़क़द फ़ाज़ फ़ौज़न अज़ीमा, जो अल्लाह को अल्लाह के रसूल की इताअत से हमें को हटा सकता है। इसलिए अल्लाह के रसूल का इताअत क्या है? हमें रुयत को, चाँद को देखने का हुक्म दिया है। इसलिए हमें अपने मुल्क में खूब काम करने की कोशिश किया जाए। और दूसरी ये है कि हम बाज़ लोगों का एतराज़ ये है कि हम सऊदी का मामला जो भी हो, जैसे भी हो, वहाँ का यानी कज़ा का जो है काजी के फैसले को हम अदब और एहतराम की वजह से हम फॉलो कर रहा है। ये बात बिल्कुल गलत है। क्यों? इसलिए कि काजी का मामला क्या है, किसी इस्लामी मुल्क में किसी काजी को रख दिया जाए किसी महल्ले के लिए, शहर के लिए, तो वो काजी एक शहर के लिए भी वो काम कर सकता है, पूरे मुल्क के लिए काम नहीं कर सकता। किसी मुल्क के लिए उनको जिम्मेदारी ठहराया हो, वो काजी सऊदी मुल्क के लिए इनका फैसला होता है, पूरे दुनिया के साथ इनका ताल्लुक
ठीक है। मुझे अब ये information मिल गया। I will ask Dr. Osama Hassan to briefly translate the message from Mufti Sahib.
And what Sheikh Yusuf said was that, firstly, astronomically, it's quite clear that there's no chance of seeing the moon anywhere in the world Thursday evening. And then secondly, he said that the issue of moon sighting is the responsibility of the ulama and the leaders, Muslim religious scholars and leaders in every country, to arrive at a decision for their own country. And he said that we shouldn't follow sighting from another country because it's easy, just easy to just follow somebody else, let them make the decision for us. And he said some people say that we follow the Majlis al-Qada al-Ali, or the highest court in one particular country, Saudi Arabia for example, and he said we do that out of respect for those great scholars. And he said this is not right, because the Qadi and a court or judge is appointed for a particular town or city, or it can be for the province or for a whole country, but never for the whole world. We don't have Qadis for the whole world. Those are what Sheikh Yusuf
and I think it's just important to also clarify that in fact some of the scholars in Saudi Arabia, and there was Sheikh Abdullah bin Baz, who had been, I think, one of the Grand Muftis in Saudi Arabia in the year of 1399 Hijri. He had made it very clear, and there's a quote that I have, that as for those who say that it is necessary to follow the sighting of Makkah, then let it be known to them that there is no proof or basis for this in the Quran and Hadith. So I think the idea that Saudi Arabia, of course, in its own place, they are doing what is right for them, and I think we cannot question them in the same way that we don't question other countries in Pakistan, in India, or South Africa, wherever. Let them do what is right. The whole issue that we are talking about is in terms of the position of the British Muslims up here in the UK. Are we under any obligation? And if so, on what basis? On what Sharia basis? And if not, then why is it being done? Right. This, I think, very appropriately brings into my respected and a very eminent scholar, Sheikh Haytham Al-Haddad, who alhamdulillah had given us a fair bit of information at the last discussion. Sheikh Adam, we have heard from our different scholars the issue about the position of the moon as far as the UK is concerned, in Europe and other parts of the world. How do you see? Do you feel that there is, inshallah, a greater possibility for us to celebrate the day of Eid? And if not, what are the chances that we may differ?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I think we need to pose this question to the brothers and also to our leaders and imams around the UK. If we came to a conclusion, if we agree on something, are they going to give up their own opinions for the sake of unity, or are they going to still insisting on their personal or individual opinions? This is the key question. Before I think the discussion here the brothers bring forward, I think it is irrelevant to our situation. What is relevant is to ask the imams, the leaders, etc. in this country, that in order to reach to a consensus, and I think everybody believes that reaching a consensus is something very important.
That's right.
In order to reach to a consensus,
Yes.
obviously in the beginning we will be unable to reach to a consensus.
Yes.
There will be a majority and the minority. And then the minority, in order to reach a consensus, they have to give up and forego their own opinions
Yes.
for the sake of unity.
Sure.
So
This question I think is a very important question, and we will be posing to all our three panelists. But in terms of just to take the discussion further, both the present state, because we want to start off because of course the Eid can only take place if the moon has been sighted on the 29th of Ramadan. If not, then we have to complete 30 days according to the Sharia. But on the basis the way information that we have got so far at the moment, Sheikh, because that is a matter that needs to be tackled on. I entirely agree. It's a very important question because we have different opinions, but are we able to agree to a particular consensus that emerges? It's a good question, and we'll ask. But just to make life easy for us in the moment, so that we can get this part out of the way, and then we can involve, and then we can bring the question in. What do you see? What are the possibilities of us celebrating the Eid on one day, this end of Ramadan?
Let me speak on my behalf first of all. For me, and I think for a number of mosques like Regent's Park, even East London Mosque, and the 7 or 6 big mosques in London, all of them, they want unity, and they want to celebrate Eid on one day. And this is why they came together, and they said that it was proven that all formulas failed to work. And this is a well-established fact. You know the formula of 1984, and maybe we have so many other meetings after that. And all formulas failed. So we are not bringing something new here.
Yes.
We are bringing something that has been discussed before. Was it working? Has it been working?
So what is the formula? What is the formula you'll be working on now for this Eid?
The formula that I'm working on is basically what they agreed on, that whenever Saudi Arabia announced it, they will announce it.
I see.
Forget about Saudi Arabia. Imagine it is wrong.
Yes.
I agree with Sheikh Ibn Baz that it is not obligatory upon us to follow Mecca. Who said that? We are not saying that. We are not following Saudi Arabia. We are not following Mecca. Let us make it clear. We are following the majority of Muslims in the UK. So far, at least, I have a data for the past 5 years, and I think everyone agrees on that at least 60% of the Muslims in the UK, they go for Mecca. Why? Maybe because of TV channels, maybe because of data, maybe they are spiritually attached to Mecca, etc., etc. The question is, if we know that at least 60% of the Muslims go for one opinion, are the 40% of the Muslims willing to compromise their opinion in order to achieve unity?
Okay,
I think this is the prime point.
Just before we conclude that part, and we'll come to your second part, what evidence do we have that of your 60%, the 60% of the Muslims in the UK are following the particular formula of Saudi? Where do you get this information from?
Okay.
But the important point, the reason I asked you this question is, Sheikh, because I've been reading in the papers as well, and there have been some newspapers like the Jung and the News International, which has given contradictory information. They believe, and information from the last Eid, that more than 70% have not been following Saudi Arabia. So this is the real issue of where do we get the facts. And however, this is an important point which we need to touch on as we move along. But we will answer, this question has to be answered, and I think it's a key question. That's why I would like to leave it once we get the opinions from the floor. But we have now heard from our experts, our scholars, in terms of why they are taking a particular view on the issues, and experts from astronomical data as well. I think let's just bring in our audience now. And we are fortunate once again to have amongst us key persons, ulamas, scholars, and also heads of the organizations, particularly in London area. I think if there is a comment that you would like to express, please do so. And then more importantly, we would like to get your questions so that our experts can try and answer that. Right, we'll go with Brother Rashid Bhatti, if you'd introduce yourself and then give us your comment and your question.
My name is Abdul Rashid Bhatti. I'm a trustee at Central Jamia Masjid in Southall, Middlesex. My question and a statement, if you like, and a short one this time, is basically this. It seems like a consensus is being asked for. I wish to refute that there is a majority of mosques now in the UK who want to follow Saudi Arabia. We have understood the data, we know it. What we need to establish here is an authority, and the best one at that is the UK Halal Authority. That is something which was signed upon even by Regent's Park with its 7 masjids. There are a lot of other large masjids who are not with Regent's Park anymore, and we are one of them. And Southall is a very long established old mosque. Having said all that, I would like to say basically this. It is now time to revive the sunnah of our Prophet, beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in the light of Sharia, and implement the correct ruling. Now, the only UK held conference that we've got, which guides us towards that, is the 1984 conference. And it's been adhered to by the UK Ru'yat Halal Committee, of which you know full well, even even the Sunni Conference of Birmingham, the East London Mosque Forum, West London Mosque Forum, Thames Valley Forum, and there are several other forums which I forget the names of now, are already party to. Now, I want to ask Sheikh Haitham one question, which is perhaps even any of the panel can answer. Why could we not now unite on haqq, and instead of going on and saying, okay, look, the unity seems to be on following a non-Shari compliant resolution.
Okay. Let's
go for one of that which will unite us on the UK Hilal Committee is perhaps the best vehicle to go forward on. Ratify the 1984 criteria in the light of the new scientific knowledge that we have, and also approach through the MCB and form some kind of national forum which we get the help, we are taxpayers, that the government funds it. We have a national authority which perhaps can be even EEC based, i.e. throughout London and Europe as well.
Very good. Rashid, you've got two important questions that if you could make note of it as well. It's one in terms of the need to follow Sharia rather than on the issue of consensus. Is that acceptable? I mean, is it right for us to just follow on consensus which may not be Sharia compliant, or do we have to be... And secondly, the need for us to hold this major international, once again, conference and either reiterate our position in terms of a particular decision, particular formula, whatever. Fine. We'll move on to the next sort of persons up here. Could you raise your hands into it? Fine. Mr. Huda, please. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Muhammad Huda from the Central Mosque Wembley, and a lot of words came out from the mouth of Imam of the Central Mosque and Sheikh Suleiman and Dr. Osama Hassan, and I'll catch on that and I'll give comment. Maybe my questions are in my comment, otherwise I'll ask the question.
Brother Huda, we have to be brief because we need to go through with all the members.
Yeah, number one, he said understanding Allah has given. That's the most key point. And Sheikh Suleiman said criteria of visibility. If those people who do not understand, there shouldn't be leader and imams and professor and teacher in the school. They can't be parents because Allah has chosen them. Otherwise, they are misguiding people. Now, after the sunset, still the race is going in khula, in a space. If you put something like Sputnik, when Russia left, you could see because it reflected the light back. to understand. Not every Muslim or all people can understand that. And regarding the 60% and 40%, there are 60% non-Muslims in the world. Shall we follow them? No. This is, and the horizon, when the sun sets, still I said that the sun rays is going. If you put some object on it, it will reflect back. And when the moon is in horizon, it reflects back. And on 12th of October, which is Friday, for 3 minutes, London Observatory said that there will be 3 minutes in London, West London. It will be reflecting lights. Whether we can see it or not, your eyes has to be 6 by 6.
Sure.
Assalamu alaikum.
Awesome. Jazakallah khairan. Right, Brother Anis.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Anis Joseph. I'm representing Bala Mosque and Tooting Islamic Center and also Council of Mosques in South London. And basically, I've got 2 or 3 questions here. First of all, my question would be that why is it, first of all, Regent's Park Mosque was a signatory to this 1984 criteria. And this was actually working. I am reluctant to believe that it didn't work. It actually did work, and it worked for a number of years. It just so happened that somebody slipped out at some stage, and then Regent's Park moved away from it. I want to know that why did they just simply choose to follow Mecca? Was that just an easy solution? And if it was an easy solution, then is it all right for us to choose an easy solution even though if it is wrong according to Sharia? Just because it is convenient to us? That's my question number 1. Number 2, I think the question that was raised here is that, if, for example, I'm reluctant to believe that, and I have reasons to disbelieve that there are 60% people who are following Regent's Park Masjid. However, even if we do take, for example, and here we have been asked that, are we prepared to compromise? First of all, I want to know one thing. In Islam, is it allowed to compromise something for your convenience? Are we actually allowed to do that? Because, here I'm not talking about compromise. In Islam, the way I understand it is that there is no compromise. There is one thing that is right, and there's another thing that is wrong. Finish. There is no in between there. So that's number 2. But my final question here is that, inshallah, it's just Allah's greatness to us that subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this opportunity. And this time, I think that coincidentally, Ramzan Eid is going to be together. But now we have to look forward at Eid al-Adha. And my question here is Eid al-Adha automatically the next day after Hajj? Or is it supposed to be the 10th of Zil-Hajj? Because this is a big issue. People just automatically believe that because Hajj has taken place, next day we automatically have to celebrate.
Fine.
But suppose if Hajj has been taken place on the wrong day because of the calculations of that country, what are we supposed to do here? Are we supposed to do according to the 10th of Zil-Hajj, which is correct for us in this country?
Fine.
Or should we just follow?
Okay, we've got Jazakumullah khairan for these, I think, quite pertinent questions. We'll go through to the panel. If I may initially go straight away to Sheikh Aitham, because there was some question directly addressed to him on this issue. 3 key questions. Sheikh, what are your answers to those?
Yeah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I think the brothers, with all due respect to them, they are missing many points. First of all, they are speaking about the issue as it is right or wrong. They are not considering that there is an element of ijtihad here. We are not asking people to compromise the issue of monotheism to the issue of Trinity. We are not asking the people to compromise not to fast the month of Ramadan or maybe to establish the day of Al-Jum'ah on Sundays, for example.
Yeah.
This is a matter of al-ijtihad.
Sure.
And on matters of al-ijtihad, we must compromise for the sake of the unity of
So it is
Ummah.
quite possible that you have an hadith, the Sharia, which is very clearly saying the criteria it's been given in terms of the sighting on the 29th. And what the only issue of contention is that the availability of data that's been given to us through the scientific method, observatory, because that is where the issue comes in. I mean, that's where we become a bit more open, that look, there is this data available, which we seem to be following for our prayers, 5 times prayers, even for the beginning of the fast, ending of the fast, everything is based on the observatory information.
But,
so
brother,
that is an issue.
Iqbal, you know, and even the scholars here know that it is not as simple as that. It is not a matter of data and that's it. There is so many issues, and that's why, because there are so many factors are involved here, and it is not a very simplistic way as it was presented. That's why the formula that has been established before failed, because there are many other factors. For example, they say, what about if the moon was sighted even before that? If it was sighted in other country other than Saudi Arabia, in Nigeria, for example,
Yes,
or
it was.
in the east.
In fact, Sheikh Hatem, you know, the moon was sighted, as you know, in Nigeria
Yeah.
and Libya on
Exactly.
Tuesday night.
Yeah.
But no of our scholars did not accept that sighting.
And that's why one of the years, I think in 2002, some brothers, they announced the Ramadan here even before Saudi Arabia, before the calculation with Egypt. And they said, now it is not a matter of Saudi Arabia, it is a matter that there is a moon sighting established in Egypt, and that is a Muslim country, we should follow that.
There may be some individual mosques or whatever, but
yeah.
what we are talking
So
about the general public and
Agreed.
community in the UK.
I agree. So what I'm saying is that there are many other issues
Right.
are involved. It is not simply the data.
Okay.
Whether the issue of اختلاف المطالع is there or it is not there.
Right.
Whether the issue even of this calculation. All the brothers, they say that we need to establish the sunnah.
So
And
you are quite,
immediately-
Sheikh, you are quite clear, Sheikh, that the question is, because we need to be very specific up here, that on one side, if the Sharia, we are in a position, the word compromise is being used, but I think compromise, we are not compromising, as you rightly said, to do with fiqh, to do with certain issues of farad or, you know, a belief.
Or our aqidah.
or
This is
so.
a matter that all
procedure.
scholars disagree
You believe
about.
on this issue, we are able to have a compromise.
Yeah.
That's in
Yeah.
short, that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Fine.
this is one thing.
Sheikh, you've answered the first point quite well. I just need the answer to the second point.
Which is
the
what?
1984 formula, which you say has failed. Many of the examples that's been given to us that many of the forums in the UK are continuing to follow, and they believe that the majority are following. Why do you say it's failed? In what way it's failed?
Because this is what we have been seeing throughout the years. And okay, maybe I'm wrong in claiming that it failed. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong that the majority of Muslims are following Regent's Park, which is following Mecca. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, let us, first of all, we need to agree.
Yeah.
If we carry out statistics and surveys to see the majority of Muslims following what, are we going to stick to that, or are we going to still say that, well, this is unity on batil? This is, we will not compromise on these issues, and we will never.
Very good point.
stick to
We'll
that.
come to this, Sheikh. Now let's bring in Dr. Osama on the questions.
Now, these calculations are actually far more accurate than they were in 1984. I think that's very important to realize. These calculations are very accurate. Moonsighting.com shows that for over 10 years, something like the last 12 years, the calculations have been right every month on the moon sighting. That's about 150 moons. The last 150 moons, we've got it right every single month. And I give an example of that. Beginning of Ramadan, we said it will be seen in South Africa. It was seen in South Africa. And what we haven't done, we produce these charts every month. What we should do is, for the next few years actually, produce calendars in Britain based on fiqh terminology such as, or principles such as you can accept a sighting from the east but not from the west. It's very easy for us in Britain, because if you have countries on either side of you, it can get difficult to draw the line somewhere. But we have the great big Atlantic between us and the
So
Americans.
you reckon that this particular way of consensus or arriving to a particular formula is if these calculations were made available?
Available. I believe we'd have unity on a correct
Osama,
method.
Again, unity, yes, but the point is that are we not really contradicting with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the month commences with the sighting of the moon?
No. You are actually following that hadith, because this calculation is calculating precisely when that moon is sighted. And this is why I'd actually go further than what Sheikh Sulaiman said. He quoted Imam Subki and Imam Ibn Taymiyyah at the same time, and
Right.
Al-Bayruni. But these are 700 to 1,000 years ago. They said you can't calculate when the moon is visible. And they were right. At that time, you couldn't do it accurately. But that was 700 to 1,000 years ago. Science moves on.
Right.
Now we are very accurate. And I'll say, look at the evidence, moonsighting.com.
Right.
And I have to say, leading ulama in the world over the last century, including Sheikh Ahmad Shakir, one of the greatest muhaddithin and fuqaha, including Sheikh Yusuf al-Qardawi and others, have said, based on the maqasid of Sharia, you can do this.
Okay.
Because we
Fine.
know exactly when the moon is visible.
Right.
And therefore, we're following the hadith in beginning the Ramadan on the sighting of the moon.
Very good. Sheikh Sulaiman, if I could bring you in here, because this is a very interesting discussion that's being developed as well. And whilst we are dealing with it, also we need to answer the very important point put across to us by Sheikh Aizam as well, that if there is a consensus, if there's a consensus that it emerges, why should there be a reluctance, us in not following it when we see the possibility of the entire community celebrating such important days together?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, but I just want to mention before I go further that when it comes to issues of solar eclipse, very easy. We take the calculations, we look at the newspapers, we find so many articles saying the solar eclipse exactly at that time, at precise time, it is taking place. When the sun, the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. So these accurations are so accurate that all we are saying, we are not compromising with the sunnah. In actual fact, there is a great awareness, awakening to ihya, to revive the sunnah, that there hasn't been a time before, maybe in the past, the importance of attempting and observing the hilal with the naked eye. So we are doing it, we are practicing it 29th of every month. We are looking for the hilal. Before, people never even bothered. Now when there's effort being made, why are there so much people placing obstacles? We are saying rather unite, because you will never able to achieve unity in this country, because there will always be people saying, how can we do something when we know definitely it does not meet the criteria of the beginning of our Islamic months. So that is why we say, even if there are 60% of the people who are not following or following maybe Saudi Arabia or any other country, we say, now that there is awakening, there is education, we have now Muslims there lecturing at the observatory, why not we create awareness, educational programs, educate our young children. They are growing up, and today with the advancements of this technology, by the click of the button, those youngsters, they get information so easily. They are knowing that they know exactly what is happening. Yes. So if we are going to turn a blind eye and then we are going to say, no, let's keep united, forget about it, brush it under the carpet, it's not going to work. We are going to lose the trust of our young generation who are looking at us. So therefore, when this issue has come up, and it's so important issue because we do not want to fast in the month of Ramadan, or we do not want to have our Eid when we know the month has not come to an end. In the deepest recess of our hearts, we will not feel satisfied. Yes. There will be that sense of wavering. So therefore, we want to, just like if 60% of the people unite and said that we know exactly Maghrib time maybe is 6:20 or whatever, 20 past 6, and 60% said that we have seen the sunset, that is 10 past 6, 20 minutes before sunset. Now will you be happy to do and make your iftar before sunset? You will not, naturally. Why? Because this is what we are saying. We have to go back to the original method, the original way. And the only thing that we are using now, when there is already been established, we have now Wifaqul ulama, so many organizations, education being created. You have your 1984. Maybe there were some flaws in it. Maybe it could be already, or obviously have a more awareness educational program whereby we can try and solve the problems that we're facing in the past, why people did not follow it. But I can tell you with today's advancements of this technology, we actually have to now, this is the time and the chance we have. Islam Channel has given us the opportunity to present this information to the masses. So let's take this opportunity and ask those 60% of the people who are blindly following Regent's Park to awake from the deep slumber and come to the right criteria and unite the people on the right day for the ibadat, just like how they want to do their salawat on the right times.
Sheikh Islam, alhamdulillah, that's fine. One second, Sheikh, we need to clear up here. What they are saying, of course, everybody is aiming for unity. In fact, in fact, the basis on which this calculation is done, that is perhaps the only criteria on which nobody can question. Because as we see that ulama, the scholars, you are saying that who do not follow the calculation, surely they follow the opening of the fast, the closing of the fast, the 5 times prayers. In every aspect of our daily lives, they follow that. So why are we not able to
First of all, there is a big difference between that. And I'm really very surprised that Sheikh Sulaiman and even Brother Osama, they are not unaware of this, because the scholars, Imam al-Qarafi mentioned this clearly, that there is a difference between the prayer timing and the issue of moon. The issue of moon, the Prophet ﷺ said, fast when you all fast. Break your fast when you all break your fast. So the criteria is different. The moon, the start of the month of Ramadan is established according to Sharia, when the vast majority of scholars establish that. This is the criteria that people unaware of and they are really neglecting.
We're supporting it, Ya Sheikh. And you said this is irrelevant. I have to say that's wrong.
Just let me complete. Yeah. The second point is, again, the question is, and the brothers are trying to escape from answering the question clearly. If we came to a conclusion, whether this criteria or any other criteria, because they believe that this is the only criteria, and this is what I'm saying. Just before Ramadan, I rang brothers from Leicester, and they said we unanimously agreed that we will follow Saudi Arabia because this is the criteria that we are doing before. I rang the brother Abdul Qayyum.
Yeah,
He said
I think
me and
sure,
70
sure.
masjid before with us are still following Saudi Arabia. We are still. So
Right.
the point
Sheikh, I think
is,
this is, Sheikh, where we do end up in a bit of a problem because the information is totally contradictory. I'll give you the information, for example, Leicester, just one example, where you say unanimity. Sheikh,
before getting
there are
into
mosques in Leicester, 5 major mosques, which will not be following Regent's Park Mosque. That is clear information. I can give the Central Mosque of Leicester, even some of the ulamas that have been following the Deobandi tradition, they have decided they will not be following.
Okay,
through.
I agree,
Likewise,
brothers.
in East London there, we have the East London Forum, which represents about 18 to 20 mosques, including the main Lee Bridge Mosque, the Queen's Road Mosque. All these mosques will not be following this. They made it very clear. These are not. So some of the information that we're getting are contradictory.
okay, brother Iqbal, I said from the beginning why they are reluctant, why everybody is reluctant to say that.
Yeah.
Because
Let's
said
get-
from the
let's-
beginning, if we came to a conclusion
Yes.
that 60% of the Muslims are following any criteria.
Yes.
Okay, I'm saying this openly. I don't think that it should be said, and I said that clearly in an article that I wrote in my website,
can-
Islam
can I
21.
answer that?
Let me
Can I
just.
Okay, Shaykh,
I'm
because we
saying-
need to bring in the audience as well. Now, let's
I'm
conclude
saying
now.
this clearly.
Yeah.
Now, the question is everybody going to do the same thing, or are they going to say, no, we should follow our opinion because it is the haqq? Because everyone is seeing
I
his
take your
opinion
point.
as the haqq.
Very good. Dr. Samad, can we please answer this?
I think that's a very important question. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Haytham, which he's asking. But I think what's very important is that people want to see the moon. There has to be,
I can hear
it
you.
has to be on the basis of the truth, which it seems, ya Sheikh, that you're almost ignoring. Because you're mentioning the hadith of the unity and not the ru'ya. All these calculations are for the ru'ya. The scientists, Muslim scientists and scholars have told for centuries, working this out, and go to great trouble every month to calculate precisely and to check with sighting reports from all over the world. And in answer to question, ya Sheikh, we do not want a majority or to follow majority if it goes wrong. I'll give you an example. There's something.
this is the point.
No, can I finish? Can I finish, ya Sheikh? No, can I finish? There's something called the Israeli New Moon Society. Look it up on the internet. Who look for the new moon every month and who believe that all their festivals are one day too early because the Jewish calendar, it is well known, for the last 2,000 years follows conjunction and not the new moon. Now, I actually emailed the head of the Israeli New Moon Society once, and he said to me, that 99% of Jews are united on the same calendar, and in contrast to Islam. Okay, but I replied to him and I said, you're doing it on the wrong day by your own admission, and you're trying to get the rabbis to change it. And I said, all right, we are disunited, the Muslim world is disunited, but at least, alhamdulillah, 40, 50, 60% of the 1 billion Muslims actually do the festival based on the sighting of the new moon, because that new moon is
it's
important.
good that you have clarified this particular point because we don't want to create sort of unnecessary confusion onto it. Sheikh Suleiman, can you answer some of the points that, because the issue of Sharia is being questioned up here now?
Because, it's very important. I would like to pose a very important question now to Sheikh Haytham. We have, for example, the International Crescent Observation Project had their conference. Here, there was present Abdul Aziz ibn Sultan al-Shumairi. He gave me this by hand personally.
Who is he?
Abdul Aziz, he is the I'timad al-Taqwim al-Hijra al-Qamari. He is one of the main key person who is preparing the al-Qura calendar.
From where?
He's from Saudi Arabia.
From Saudi Arabia. Yes.
And his name is here, the list of the participants. There were over 20 people that were there from the Saudi Arabia. And he has given us the data of the latest al-Qura calendar, which they revised from 1420. And what he is saying here, that Ramadan will be completed 30 days, Yawm al-Jum'ah will be the last of the Ramadan, and 1st of Shawwal will be on Saturday. This is the revised calendar, al-Qura calendar. And the condition that they have given is that the moon must set after sunset. Here on Thursday, moon sets before sunset. It is not impossible. Now my question is, what if, for example, there is a declaration of the Ramadan or the Eid on Friday, that is for 1st of Shawwal? The question I want to know, are we just going to follow blindly when we know something that is clear and accurate, conclusive? So we are using this data, persuasive. We are not using it to establish the beginning of the month. We are using it to reject, to make nafi, to negate that which is improbable.
Okay, fine.
And one more point is,
Sheikh
Sheikh knows Abdullah ibn Sulaiman al-Munay. This is an article that appeared in Medina al-Munawwara. How is it that we are abandoning, we are looking back when we know in today's time advancements of technology in the last decades, so much we have advanced. Why are we just turning a blind eye? Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru bi-husban. These things are accurate. When I'm not saying everything is accurate. What I'm saying is the sunset, the moon set. This is accurate. If you know moon is set before sunset, all astronomers are unanimous. Fine. And he is saying that
Sheikh
in-
Sulaiman, you
Alright.
put the question up here. Sheikh, this is a very important question. The information, there's a big conference, ulamas, all people together, they've given information. Why are we not able to get a consensus through this particular
No, you
declaration?
need to ask them. You need to
Well,
ask
he's
them.
asked me a simple question.
I'm saying,
Yes.
if all the scholars and leaders and Muslims in this country agreed on this,
Yes.
okay, I will follow it.
Alhamdulillah. So that
Okay,
is fine.
but the
Yes.
point is,
Yes.
the point is,
Yes.
proof that for me that it is being the case, and many people or most of the people are following it.
Right.
And again,
Yes.
no one
Very
answered
important.
this question.
Yes, yes.
If we had, because there are some other formulas,
Right.
and we knew that this formula, many people do not accept it because they say that we should go for naked moon sighting. This is not naked, this is visibility. And many
Visibility,
people
right.
are
Yes.
mixing between both. So
agree.
they say naked moon sighting, wherever it happens in the world,
Yeah.
in Morocco or in any other country, then we should go for that. That's why there is another formula other than this formula, and many people are following that formula.
Yeah.
So the
Okay, now,
question is,
I think, Sheikh,
again,
I think the answer now, we've got the answer we wanted to.
No, but we
provided
did
the
not-
consensus there, the question, all right, I think to just, I thought you've answered it in a different way, but can we be more explicit in terms of what Sheikh has answered about this consensus? Consensus,
Okay, yes. What I'm saying
if there is a consensus, are we able to follow through that, whether it is in compliance with the Sharia or not? That's what you're saying.
No, Brother Iqbal, again, because otherwise we will be going on
Sure.
and on and on.
Sure, right.
The question is, any formula that we as Muslims in the UK come up with, whether this formula that they believe in or other formulas
It has
that
to be provided is based on the Sharia.
be
isn't it?
provided based on Sharia.
Khalas.
Okay, because all formulas, the scholars are not bringing it out of the blue.
No, but is the Sharia says that the moon sighting in Saudi Arabia for Regent's Park to make announcement, we have to follow through. Is that Sharia?
There is, of course, because this is a very valid
But we have heard
opinion.
the Sheikh bin Baz
No.
saying that we have got no obligation to
Yeah,
follow Makkah.
okay. The
The
point
Grand
is,
Mufti of Saudi Arabia saying
let
that.
me just complete this point.
Yes.
There is a very valid opinion, and they know about it, that if the moon was sighted any place in the world,
Yes.
then the other parts of the world have to follow that.
Yes.
And this is a very valid
agree. I
opinion.
entirely agree.
Irrespective of whether
the
the
moon is
visibility supports that or not.
In the UK or not,
And
I
the
see.
UK or not. Because most of the scholars, 99% of the scholars never looked at these things, and even they knew about astronomy and they never considered it.
Fine,
So it is a valid, no, just a minute. It is a valid opinion.
Yeah.
So now the issue is, we have number of valid opinions. Whether any opinion that we decide on,
Yes.
are we going to forego our own opinions? Let us
Right.
make it
Let's
clear.
click. The
In
question is very
order-
clear. Sheikh,
in order to follow
bring it.
that opinion
I agree.
or not.
A brief answer from Sheikh Suleiman, Dr. Sama, and then we move back to the
Without
audience.
getting
So,
into bringing the calculation issue and look
Okay, we will not bring
Let's
the-
be very specific now, Sheikh.
the
because
main
I think,
thing, for example-
Sheikh has made a very specific question onto it, and if we can get this answer on that basis, then we'll move to the next point.
this what we are doing, we are reinventing the wheel. You already met, in 1984, that was a time where all of the ulama had got together, you'll establish a criteria. My question is, I was not here, why have they left the criteria? This is what we need to check. And now there is an awareness been created. People have realized that so many years have passed, maybe they were unaware there was such a serious problem. But because now when you have a books written on this, that Saudi Arabia is citing most of the times here in this book already from 46 times, around 6 times only it was correct. So when you have information written, and he was also there at the conference, Adnan Abdul Munim Al-Qadi, so that is why people are now questioning, awareness is created.
Sheikh Suleiman,
We cannot unite on something that is wrong. We want to establish a unity, even if it means for the time being that we are minority over a period of time. Inshallah, when we have that sincere need and effort that we want to establish a criteria for all of the people to celebrate Eid on one day, then there should not be other people who are trying to put obstacles and blocking this way right now as we are speaking.
Fine. Once again, Sheikh. Once again,
Sheikh, no, it's my turn. Yeah, Sheikh.
Sama,
Yeah,
reply.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. I have to correct a big mistake there, yeah, Sheikh. The green area on this curve is naked eye calculation. It is well known, these curves. They're very precise. They tell you when you can see it with the naked eye, when you can see it with a telescope. This green, this is naked eye, Sheikh.
4 days ago.
They think there's a possibility for the next.
The naked eye means that you go physically and you sight
Yes,
the
you
moon,
see-
not
yes.
to see that there is a
Yeah, Sheikh, will
possibility
you
of
let me finish,
visibility.
Sheikh? We said for the last 10, 15 years, every month these calculations have been tested by people following the Sunnah, looking for the moon. I've done it myself. CrescentMoonwatch.org has been running for 2 years. How many of the ulama and imams and the masses go and look for that.
Right, Dr.
They don't. We are following the Sunnah.
One second, Sheikh. What I just want to try and bring in.
We are following the
members
Sunnah on that.
from the audience as well. One second, Sheikh, because we are coming to the
we have a
conclusion.
question for Sheikh Haytham. We have a question for Sheikh Haytham, very important, which is, if Saudi Arabia announces Eid on Friday, what will you do when it is quite clear that there is no way they can see the moon? And it's happened over and over again. This is the question which people want to know.
Yeah,
you know what a beautiful Ramadan it is. We'd like 30 days. It's quite clear it should be 30 days.
Okay.
What will you do?
You mean if
Saudi, which is a strong possibility, you know.
So I will answer the question clearly, okay? Unlike the way you were answering the questions.
we're
You are
quite
going,
clear, Sheikh.
yeah, you are going through the
Sheikh,
point.
time is
So,
rather limited.
yeah,
Sheikh. We have the
I
last
will-
5 minutes, and I want to bring in 2 more questions. Please
Yeah,
answer
I-
this question from Dr.
Simply,
Salah.
if the majority of Muslims
Yeah.
in the UK are following that, I follow it. If the majority of Muslims...
But the majority, Sheikh, let's be now very clear. Let's not try to divert our attention to a different matter. The availability of the majority, nobody has that specific exact data. There are different opinions appear. Now you give an 8 mosques, there'll be another 100 mosques will saying we are not going to follow regional path. How are we going to judge? The point is, when there's so much of information available, that there is absolutely no possibility, it's impossible to sight the moon on Thursday. And the groups that were coming from different parts of the country have already, as you know, many of the groups in Birmingham, the Confederation of Sunni Mosques, who have combined with Jamiat al-Hadith, the UK Islamic Mission and others, have already announced that Saturday is the day of Eid. Likewise in Leicester, in London. But the UK Ru'yat al-Hilal Committee, they will be following the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ by meeting on the 29th of Ramadan on Thursday night. And then they will they will go for the visibility. They'll try and sight the moon. If it's not there, then they will say that because the moon is not on the horizon in the UK, we will do it on Saturday. Now, in this situation, if the news of sighting any part of the world, not Saudi Arabia only, any part of the world, like Nigeria sighted on Wednesday, or Libya, according to your information, you say somehow the majority. The point is, there is no such thing as a majority, Sheikh. We have to accept that reality. Okay. There may well be other mosques. We are not denying that. We are not trying to say they're right or wrong. The point is, isn't this an opportunity, a golden opportunity, for us to bring the Muslim community together when we have got so much of background information, scientific data, helping us, assisting us, not allowing us to follow that criteria. I mean, very clear. This information is for guidance only. So, isn't this a possibility that we can bring it together?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Okay, this is I think
very
for
important.
Ramadan.
Yes.
This is for Eid.
Yes.
Definitely. And I'm
We
saying
will,
that
Alhamdulillah.
clearly.
I think we'll
But
talk
the
about Eid al-Adha
question-
because I think the question about Eid al-Adha has come in. But I don't want to touch on it because we've got the last few
but
points to take on, Sheikh, which is a very important issue
Okay.
as well. There are 2 or 3 brothers who want to ask. Brother, your name. All right, you already got the mic. Please just give a name and clear question so that we're in the last minutes of the program.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Khurram Sire. I'm from Cranford Mosque in West London. I have 2 very simple questions. Regent's Park Mosque, for 5 times a day, for 365 days a year, they pray according to local time in the UK. Yet for 12 times in the year, they go to Mecca to say the start of the month. Can somebody explain, the panel explain to me why that is the case?
Okay, first question. Second question.
And the second question is, if the majority, and I don't care how you define the majority, if the majority of the ummah is doing something incorrect, is it the requirement on the minority to follow that incorrect process, even if it is wrong? 2 simple questions, and I'd like the panel to answer.
Okay,
please.
fine. We'll take it to the Shahid up here.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Brother Shahid from Abu Bakr Mosque in Southall. I have 3 questions. First of all, I learned from yourself, and I give you all the gratitude for the first presentation before Ramadan. Public benefited that, and I was make affair from my community in Southall that they saw that program, and it was very knowledgeable thing, educational, and I'm sure now while they're listening now, Ummah is benefiting from that as well. And I thank you, Islam Channel, for that. My question to Dr. Usama is, although it's supposed to be Dr. Haytham, 84 formula was set up by the ulama from all over the world. Can the people, ordinary people, majority of people,
We're on the last few minutes now, so I need to conclude as well. Sheikh, it will be very quick.
Yes.
Last
Can
question.
a public
Yeah.
change the criteria of ulama
Yes.
set up? Have they got a right a ordinary majority of people,
Okay.
as the saying,
fair
have they got a right?
Yeah.
Number two, who decided that it was failed?
Right.
Is there any authority?
Okay.
And this issue is concerning UK.
Yes.
We the people live in England.
Yes.
And it is something we have to decide.
Fine. The point is
Can we
taken.
stop importing the problem from outside and we decide our own
Right.
criteria?
The last question now from brother. Please introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Ayaz Niazi from Bala Mosque. As Sheikh said, if the majority decides, we'll be unite. But I think before we go to how the majority is, I think this is about time now. 84 is a long time. There should be a conference in UK, and we should decide about UK. We are not living in a third world now. This is one of the first world we're living here now. If the South Africa can decide about themselves, South African Muslims, why not a UK Muslim can decide about themselves? This is the time now that we should decide in UK about the UK's Muslims, and we should go for it.
Fine. Jazakumullah khairun. We have got literally the last 3 minutes of the program. Now there are questions as well. I would now ask whilst you are giving your concluding remarks, if you would at the same time answer the questions that have been posed as well. So we'll go, Dr. Sama, if you could please come on that first.
Okay, Bismillah.
Sorry.
We don't have time to get into that. Yeah, very quickly. I support the idea of a major UK conference because 1984 was a long time ago, and also to publish a calendar. The Universal Hijri calendar has solved all of these problems actually. We can calculate that for years in advance, and people will see it in sync with the moon. And finally, about majority, I'd just like to say, we know from the census that something like 60% of British Muslims are under 25. And I think they're the real majority, and I do believe they're very scientifically literate, and they will certainly accept what we're saying about the scientific calculation, and really we have to take that into account. Many young people have contacted me after this. They're saying, what's the issue about? The science is quite clear, and why there are problems in the first place.
Is that we have this discussion. If it has not failed, then we didn't have this discussion. And about having another conference. If we have another conference, as the brother clearly stated, again, the question will arise again. If we reach to any other formula other than the formula that you are presenting now, because there are so many other formulas other than those, are you going to forego your opinion for the sake of majority in order to reach that consensus?
Sheikh Suleiman.
Jazakallah khairan. I mean, forget all of the formulas. The main thing now, look at this, Ramadan is coming to an end. We want to do our sumu li ru'yatihi. That is the best formula. Start your month with the sighting of the hilal. وَافْتِرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ, and end your month with the sighting of the hilal. If the hilal is not going to be sighted on Thursday and also on Friday, we know our Eid is going to be on Saturday. So that's formula for now. We have to think that let's unite ourselves at least on this Eid year for this blessed month of Shawwal, inshallah, to terminate our hearts or to terminate the month of Ramadan and to unite our hearts. So what we need to do, look at the people in the past. Why were the beacon of the nations were the beacon of the dark ages? So what we say, take the best of the people of the nations in the past and use today and adopt the best measures of today for the way forward, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Well, I think we seem to have had, alhamdulillah, had a very useful discussion. Some of the points that have come out extremely well. I think certainly I have learned a lot from the discussion today. Alhamdulillah, we seem to have come to a very positive conclusion in terms of the information that has emerged in terms of what is the likelihood of Eid being on a Friday. From the information that has been made available, of course, it seems very clear that there is no moon on the horizon in any part of the world. And therefore, we have heard from Sheikh Haitham as well, that if the majority of the community in the UK would feel that on the basis of what we have available, that they will be celebrating on Saturday, then of course, we should all celebrate on Saturday. This is now the key issue that really comes up. But I think we also need to look at the future. The suggestion that's been made about this having another international conference is very important. And I think the point raised by Sheikh as well, that even in that conference, if we agree to a particular formula, a formula that is in line with the Sharia, and that is where the difficulty comes in, because I think it's quite obvious that if we arrive to a consensus that conflicts the guideline given by the Sharia, then of course we cannot follow it, because we will not be successful into it. It has to be in compliance with the Sharia, and that is absolutely vital for us to deal with it. But the other important point that comes in, whilst the program was being planned, we had a very respected scholar who was supposed to join us. But he asked me to convey his views as well. Then, of course, they've got this other East London Forum with their members, and all these 18 to 20 mosques have agreed that, of course, they would be following the guidelines given by the 1984. So as much as the 1984 formula has failed because it has not unified the community, we see now a great interest of the community going back to that formula. But we have also identified that there are shortcomings to that formula as well, because it doesn't clarify the position about Eid al-Adha. So this is an opportunity for us, for the ulamas, to get together. And I think we can only conclude by a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, if I'm not mistaken, which clearly says that, we are basically a shepherd. We are responsible for a flock. The members present up here in the audience, the scholars present up here, have a tremendous responsibility. If they misguide the community by taking in a particular direction, which is contradicting the Quran and the Sunnah, then of course this itself is not only a major sin, it is lined to taking into a wrong path, which will bring us problems for this community. So I urge the scholars, all the scholars, the responsible people in the community, please take heed of the advice that is being given. Allah has given us this opportunity, and the last very precious moments that we are going through this particular debate program is near the iftar. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah guide us, that we are able to follow the guidance given to us, so that we can all inshallah celebrate on one day. We all look for the mood on Thursday. If it's not there, then of course we'll have to celebrate Eid on Saturday. Jazakumullah khairan for watching this program, to the audience and the speakers, and may Allah protect us and guide us through.